Welcome. We are back. Thank you for joining me. And those who are still logging in, please log in. Those who, you call each other now. Today we are doing a bit better on technology. We're on time. How are you people? How have you been this week? I promised you a guest. My guest is here. Karibu Senator Kasanga.
Asante sana.
I will be bringing Senator Kasanga on just a bit later. I just want to have a conversation with you. Remember, this is your space. I say it all the time. Thank you for those who have reached out. Thank you for the overwhelming responses from last week's show where I had the psychiatrist, Dr. Chitai. And thank you, Dr. Chitai, and the time you took. Thank you that we had Yvonne who spoke about where the young people are congregating in Nairobi, speaking about mental health. So every time I said I'll bring a guest, because it can't be only about me and my bipolar. I don't have experience in everything else, so that's why I'm bringing my guests. So we will be engaging Senator Kasanga on what they're doing about the legislation. And I like saying that until it's legislated, it's not important. Until it's legislated, it's not happening. Until it's legislated, it has no resources. So until it's legislated, it's not important. So if we want to show that the conversation around mental health that is happening now countrywide, and if we want to show commitment to mental health, it must begin with the legislation, because nothing moves without that legislation. There must be a law that will tell us how we plan to implement the grand plans we have in government. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Today I just want to tell you a bit about my last week or so. For those of you who are a bit observant, you might have noticed that my voice dropped a bit lower, a notch or two. I realized that I was going back into some form of sadness. And I didn't understand why, because I feel upbeat and I'm so committed to this show. And the work that I am doing in my ministry is very fulfilling for me, as I always say. My family environment is fine. So I was not even recognizing myself that I was, sliding into some sort of sadness. And that's why I told you, if you can afford it, and we'll talk about affordability also, or if you can get a support system around you, those around you will call you out on it, lovingly, of course. And then I was told by my psychologist who I see weekly, I went back and I looked at the shows, and I said, oh dear, of course. And then I thought about it and I said, in the last few weeks, I've been spending more and more alone time. Now remember, I talked about alone time. And I said it's good as long as it's not leading to depression, as long as it's not the alone time that is showing that you're sliding into depression. So you really need to be careful about the alone time. I don't want you to be confused about what that meant. But then I actually did realize that my alone time was taking longer and longer. And I realized that even during the day I would draw the curtains. And then I realized that I was listening and looking to read or to watch things that were a bit, how can I say, trying to get some meaning. I was looking for things that I've never really watched TED Talks well, but I started watching TED Talks. So it's like I was looking for meaning, which is another thing that you do subconsciously when you have bipolar, and I was doing it. So I asked my psychologist, why? I mean, everything around me, the parameters are good, so why then am I becoming sad? Which would make me feel a bit like a panic, because I really think I'm taking care of my mental health well. And he told me, don't worry, don't fret. When was the last time you saw your psychiatrist and looked at your medication? Now remember, again, on this show, I've been talking a lot about my psychiatrist and my medication. And many times I keep telling you, keep on your medication. When you give them medication, keep on your medication. And remember, I also told you, education is trial and error. When at last you are lucky to have the medication that works for you, it's like hallelujah. But I haven't had a change of my medication for almost 6 years. And I've never really brought that out to that effect. So you see, a psychologist or a counselor, somebody who is professional on that side, the emotional part of it, and the psychiatrist work hand in hand. So of course I rushed to my psychiatrist, who had not seen me for a while. And she listened to me, and she said, okay, we'll do this and this and this with your medication to lift you and make sure that you don't go low, but also to make sure that that medication does not take you to a high, keeps you on the level. And that's what happened. And I'm back. And sometimes even just look at somebody's demeanor, even appearance, it will tell you where somebody is. So just sharing that with those of you who are wondering, even if I'm on my medication, why do I feel sad? Why do I go manic? My doctor was very clear. Psychology, medication are not a guarantee. However, when in psychology you identify your triggers, like we spoke before, know what triggers you, get skills to deal with those triggers. Eventually, you can be at a level where your medication can be tapered off and where you can go off medication. And therefore I realized that should be our goal. That should really be my goal. This idea of saying that I will never get out of my medication, which I said in a few shows, has changed for me. Because if I can get my emotional state right, if I can go back to my history and know how I started believing in lies like truth, which are what are triggers, then I am better equipped. And therefore, just to emphasize, just to tell you my story, I was saying this because I always thought, and this is me with bipolar, many years open about it, still learning. And what I'm still learning is medication is not the end all. You can be on medication and still go into depression. You can be on medication and still become manic. Medication and dealing with your emotions, with your thoughts, and managing that must be a combination. So that was my week. And I was looking through these TED Talks and all these other great, documentaries and experience sharing. I took a few quotes. And so before I come to Senator, let me just tell you a few things I read. And of course, some of the things also I was told. And I don't know why and how I got an interview of Lionel Richie now. I know Lionel Richie as a singer like everybody, but I didn't know that he also gives some great motivational talks. I mean, it's amazing. And this applies to me and to many people who are at our level, myself, Senator Kasanga, people in government, celebrities, scientists, people who are famous. And Lionel Richie says, I don't know that he's quoted from someone else, famous is just God's way of saying, I'm going to make you famous because there's something else struggle. With a good support system, you will feel safe to say how you're feeling. So for you who is listening to me who doesn't have bipolar but is supporting somebody with bipolar, listen to this. For you to hear from bipolar mania, you must slow down. So when somebody is manic with bipolar, like I normally am, people around me will tell me to slow down. My mother is the best one. My mother is the best one. She doesn't even need to be told. I don't know that it's motherly instinct. I don't know what it is. She'll just call me, Abui, you know, Abui. Slow down. Tia maudumashio in Kikuyu, of course. And stay home. Sometimes my mother even tells me, I know there's a big thing happening tomorrow, everybody's talking about it. Don't go. And I'm like, Mom, how can I not go? Big political something. Like, there is no way I can go. She says, don't go. So for you to hear when you're in bipolar mania, you must slow down. So those of you around the supporting the person, we can't stop ourselves. Because let me tell you what we say. That is like a death sentence to a bipolar in a manic state. And the first reaction would be, never. Remember I told you mania is fun. Mania is when you have all your senses and you are really having a good time and you really think everything is fine and you are moving agendas left and right and you are achieving things actually. You're also spending too much money, which for other people is fun, maybe for you it's fun, but it will get you in trouble. So when you're told to stop and you're feeling like that, you're like, you are not understanding, I am fine. But that is mania going out of control. So most of the time, bipolars in a manic state will resist you when you tell them to slow down when they're in a manic state. When we're in depression and you talk to us as a support system, we listen faster because we're really feeling bad. And maybe anybody who could come with a way to get me out of this depression, I will listen. But in mania, a bit of a challenge. But don't give up. And you people who are the support system, take care of yourselves. I've noticed that in the support system, it can be draining. And when you're working each and every time, trying to support a bipolar person, spouse, child, friend, it can drain you. Take time off. When you need it, step back. So that you can rejuvenate yourself, you rethink, you talk to the psychiatrist, you talk to the psychologist, you read a bit more, then you come back. Believe me, it will not be like because of not wanting to support anymore. It's not about lacking love. It will be about you giving yourself the capacity and the energy to continue supporting. Thank you. Let's move on. Senator Kasanga. Amazingly, even as I started this conversation about bipolar, and when I started speaking, I had very many people in my mind around who I would bring on board. My cousins who have supported me, Nadia who has a mental health issue, Mwangangi who is on the Ministry of Health, etc. I had a group of people I knew I could bring on board. But Senator Kasanga was not one of them. Until my sister, Betty, my elder sister who I talk about who has bipolar, asked me, are you not aware that your colleague does this work? I'm saying, you are not serious. And I said, let me just go into the internet. I was amazed and a bit embarrassed that I had never connected it. And I've been talking about legislation. I've been talking about law. I've been talking about the cost. I've been talking about the mental health task force. And when I called her, I think I didn't get her, she called me back. That showed me commitment. And she was like, when can we do this? So Senator Kasanga, first welcome to my YouTube show, Shebesh Speaks, where I'm trying to raise awareness on mental health, and I am doing this because I feel this is a space I must take advantage of now. Feel it, move it. You're my third guest in this show. And I've been talking already about legislation because every comment I get, Senator, will, go around that. So first let me ask you, why? Why mental health? Do you have mental health issues?
Well, first, let me thank you from the depths of my heart.
Thank you, Senator.
That you have brought this conversation so real to Kenyans.
Thank you.
How better to fight stigma than hearing it right, like from the horse's mouth,
yes,
and how
true.
you live every day. And that I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I wear many caps. I wear many caps. I'm a mother of 2. I'm an architect by profession.
Oh.
I'm an arbitrator and I practice still.
Okay.
And of course now I'm a nominated senator.
Yes.
And as always, when you're nominated, you really don't quite have an agenda, you don't have a constituent. So, and my party leader, I'm nominated by Wiper Democratic Movement. And my party leader, said to me, you're a bright girl, go and, figure out something and serve Kenyans and, make us proud. That's what my party leader asked me to do. And I remember my first few months from 2017 up to early 2018, trying to find what is it that am I going to hang on to and make a difference with Kenyans. And the first place, of course, is to touch base with the young people.
Yes.
So I called the young people in Mueni. Mueni is my county of origin. Okay. Yeah, so you can say Mueni has 2 So I touched base with the youth forums that are in Mueni, and I had a long meeting with some of them. And I asked them, what are the issues that you'd like me to help you with?
Yes.
Don't ask for money, I don't have money, but something for posterity that we can do. And it turned out that Mueni youth are afflicted by use and abuse of drugs in such a big way because of the highway that passes through most of the towns along Mueni. Mueni has a huge frontage of Mombasa Road. So the truck stops are quite a number. So anyone who comes out of school cannot find a job ends up in the towns. Girls, especially young mothers, young single mothers who cannot afford to go back to school end up in the pubs. And they end up, abusing drugs. And it is so bad, it's affecting them mentally and it's affecting their families as well, as you know how the cycle works. So I said, okay, fine, thank you for this, let me think on it. And it weighed on me. You've asked people, now they've given you an issue, and now you're wondering, okay, now where do I start? Yeah. So it happened at that point in time. I had some doctors from Poland who had come to Mueni. I'd invited them to Mueni to help us with maternal health care. Small things that I could do. Yes. What can you do? And we sat one day over dinner, and they said, you look a bit low today. What's happening? I said, I have this thing. I don't know what to do with it. Yes. Where do I start? And that's where the question of mental health came. And one of the doctors just said to me, you need to look into your mental health legislations. And he went on to tell me how in Poland they approach it, the community-based healthcare kind of approach that talks to people right at their home, that helps, and looks at it from a multi-sectoral point of view. So even the people who don't have work, there's a way they approach now such things. I said, oh, that is very interesting. Who had thought of mental health at that point in time? So immediately I called some of the doctors who are my friends at Aga Khan, and I say, can you connect me with the people who do mental health? I didn't even know what the specialists are or where to start from or anyone. So I was brought for Dr. Kitazi. She's a psychiatrist, and she had been the superintendent at Mathare for a long time. And then she had retired and gone to Aga Khan where she was practicing. Dr. Kitazi sat down with me for 4 hours in my office. Now, that was, I called a crash course. She took me through the whole spectrum of mental health and then told me where the gaps were. So she kind of gave me the whole scope. And then immediately I could see, now I have my work cut out. But now more importantly than that, I realized that even I myself had been mentally unwell some time back. I had been through a lot of anxiety, panic attacks. In fact, I had been treated with therapy for 2 months. And I got out of it and was able to pick myself up again. And
that time you didn't realize it was until you started this conversation?
I started this conversation and I realized, oh, is that what it is? So when we're talking about mental wellness, it's a whole spectrum of things. And I said, my goodness, Kenyans need to know this. And that is now why I started this campaign.
You look like you've done it for long when I look at what you've been doing, when I read, and especially when I see that you have managed to bring a bill. Now let me tell you about a bill. Kenyans do not know how much work it is to bring a bill to the floor. I mean, I went 10 years in Parliament. I didn't bring a bill. I realized I'm better at pushing the bills that people have come with. I I also realized, that's why I don't feel any regret for not bringing a bill, because I had colleagues who are very good. I'm assuming now you're one of them because you already have a bill on the floor. It's not easy to bring a bill, because also the kind of work that it needs, the research, the reaching out, the having to go to government, having to do that. So this bill, did you have support? Did you feel you had support in the Senate for it when you started having this conversation? How did your colleagues react?
Let me take you through that journey. One of the most fulfilling journeys up until at some point.
Yes.
So we immediately embarked with my secretary, at that time, my peer at the time,
Yes.
said, let's start doing some research. You call Parliament, collect for me any research. Where are we at that mental?
Has it come before?
Yeah, where are we at?
Yeah.
And it was shocking that the only bill there is on mental health is a 1989 bill that is consistent. Old, dated, no conversation whatsoever on mental health. And I knew kazi kwangu. Let's get this done.
Yes.
So we start collecting, of course, stakeholders, calling out stakeholders who knows anything about mental health. You send out emails and whatnot, and I go to the ministry, what have you done? Oh, we've only done this. They gave me some drafts. I remember Dr. Juguna, the first time we met, gave me some drafts, and I said, I intend to do a bill. And he said, well, good luck.
Yeah.
And okay, you good luck.
Yeah.
I think maybe they didn't think I was actually probably going to do it,
Yes.
but I was very determined. It was calling on me to do something about this. And the Kenya National Human Rights Commission came forth, and they had helped, I think, one Honorable Lekuton to bring a bill in 2014, but it only went through first reading.
On mental health?
On mental health.
Okay.
Yes, on mental health. First reading, and I could not reach Honorable Lekuton.
Lekuton, I was with him in Parliament.
Yeah. It only went to first
I
reading.
didn't know that even.
Yes, and then it never proceeded, and I couldn't reach him to find out what was the challenge. So immediately I said to these stakeholders, let us progress.
Yeah.
Bring whatever it is that you had done. We took what Lekuton had done.
Yes.
We took the drafts from the ministry.
Yes.
My work was actually...
Was there a draft bill from the ministry?
No. They had just draft like thoughts that they had put together after Lekuton had brought his...
Oh, so of course, because they had to respond, so they had started working on that.
They had started working on something.
Yes.
So I took that,
Yes.
and my work was very easy, was to put these things together.
Actually, it is when you get enough
My work
support
was
around.
to get the stakeholders together.
And get the drafters on board and get it.
And Parliament has the best draft.
Best drafters.
So we had Sombe, who's...
Yes, best drafters, that I can agree, very good. So just to put it in the legislative terms, etc.
Bring the bill into the dispensation that is current, where we have national government and we have the county governments, because health is a devolved system.
Of course, yeah.
And my introductions probably to those bills were especially the work of the counties, because a lot has to be resident with the counties.
True.
Issues of community-based health workers reaching out,
At
ECT,
county level.
education for early childhood, awareness programs, all those have to be at the county. Fighting stigma has to be very heavy at the county level.
What I know, Senator, is when you bring a bill and you take it through the first reading, and then it goes to a committee, it will immediately raise the senses of government.
Completely.
That I know. I am in government, I know. Now I am the one, responsible for my ministry for Bunge. And so I know very well the process. And as I said when I was a member of Parliament, I told you I used to push bills.
Yes.
Many of the things we used to encounter was when somebody brought a private member's bill, government, of course, will immediately come on board. Either they support you with your private member's bill or you negotiate, and government will take up that bill and move on. Many private members have never had an issue with that. Did you have an issue?
Yes, I did. After publication, first reading, like you said, it went to public participation.
Yes.
First public participation was overwhelming. We didn't even finish the submissions. I sat in as a friend of the committee, the health committee, that received the submissions. And it was overwhelming. Kenyans had never had an opportunity to come and bring their views on anything mental health. So we had an
overwhelming, I'm telling you, I can imagine.
But the ministry came.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was sure
it did. They said withdraw the bill immediately. In fact, the chair of the committee had to take issue with them.
Who was the chair of the committee, by the way?
The chair is Senator from Trans Nzoia, Senator Dr. Mbito.
Oh, so it is the committee of what?
Health.
That is Dr. Mbito.
Yes.
So what was the issue?
So they
I mean,
said
government, I
first-
could smooth on some issues.
First they said it's a money bill. They always say that with a lot
Yes,
of the
yes,
private
yes.
members' bills from Senate.
Yes.
It's a
Just to clarify what the money bill story means quickly, is that anything that has a money component is the purview, and I'm putting in quotes because it's always been a discussion and point of contention. Anything that has a money component in it is considered in the purview of the National Assembly. Anything that touches on county is the purview of the Senate. Now, there is always such a fine line in between that unless you have good working relation between the houses, and I think now that's being developed, but I still notice like we were there. We're always competing. We're the upper house, the upper house. I really don't know why we do those things. But that's what Senator Kasanga means when it was withdrawn, because it was a money bill. Therefore, it was deemed that it should emanate from the National Assembly, just to make it clear. Continue.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But we had done something clever. For the public participation, we had actually trained the senators in the health committee on mental health, because we knew they don't know. So one of the stakeholders had facilitated a quick training. So by the time public participation was being done, the senators had already begun to understand the scope of what we are dealing with, the importance of it, and why it was so necessary.
Very important to get your committee on board.
Yes. So we managed to pass the public participation, and I introduced the bill to the floor of the House. In fact, we didn't even wait for the committee report. They said the stakeholders' submissions were so many, they needed time to canvass them. So
now your bill you've been told to withdraw.
No. First we finished with Senate. This I have to make.
Oh, so the Senate completed its process.
Yes, we introduced the bill in Senate in 2019. So imagine we finished with the Senate. And in fact, it was so well received to a point where we even published, in fact, after it was done, I had to publish this
show it to the
this book.
Yes. It's called Mental Health in Kenya.
Yes. The many faces.
The many faces
Yes,
of
many
mental
faces.
health in Kenya.
And what we were doing is capturing the voices of the senators. In fact, this is
wow.
Because they spoke with such passion. They opened up their hearts. They spoke, personal stories came out, because they didn't realize this is something everybody suffers from. And they didn't also realize it's a conversation you can bring at that level in Senate, in the highest house in the country. 22 submissions, highest submissions.
And that's what this is their story?
On any bill. That is their story right there. And then we combined it with a few more stories of, our stakeholders who had worked with us. They are all canvassed. There are lots of stakeholders, you will see.
I'm going to read a few comments for you before we are done. Can I show you? I'm seeing some senators here, just so that I don't interrupt your train of thought. I know exactly. Oh, Sakaja is just like my. Sakaja is just like my everything. Sakaja is just one of those people who works so well with me.
Yes.
I will listen
He's
to
the one
what.
who gave us the "it's okay not to be okay," which
yes.
I used that line in the campaign.
And so Senator Nadia is also. Kasanga is also using it.
Yes.
I also use it a lot on this show. It's okay not to be okay.
Not to be okay.
So you've reached this
Voices of
point.
the senators are there.
Yes.
And in third reading, all the amendments were captured and it was voted overwhelmingly. And we finished with it. And it went to the National Assembly. By then, we had already prepared Honorable Sabina Chege, Health Committee, to receive the bill. She was ready with her team. They actually received the bill. It went to first reading. They even went to retreat on it after public participation. Yes. She even came back and tabled a report. In fact, if you just follow the work that I do on my Facebook page, when the report was tabled, I received a copy of it. I highlighted some of it on the Facebook page. It was a very well done report. Wow. It was after that.
Well done, Sabina.
Yes, she's a mental health advocate.
Well done, Sabina.
Yes. Let me tell you, it was from that stage that somehow it went back to the budget office and was declared a money bill. Let me tell you, I was depressed for 3 days. I didn't get out of my house. The speaker called me and said, "Sylvia, where are you?" I said, "I cannot come out because my bill is a money bill and I don't understand." And they picked on, let me tell you the clause they picked on.
Yes.
There's a clause that says we have to integrate mental health to the entire healthcare system. We're not advocating for building of more mental health facilities standalone.
Yes.
We want mental health to be integrated.
To be in every level 5 hospital, every
2, 3, for
everywhere you walk in, even a dispensary.
Yes. You want a practitioner.
Who can,
at whatever
exactly.
level.
Yeah.
So they said at level 5, an expansion to cater for mental health, you know, whatever it is, whether it is just consultancy or whatever, will require extra budgetary allocation. And therefore, it is a money bill. You want to put your hair.
I think so. I think it is a money bill for that reason. Because if it did not, if you went through this whole bill, Senator, and I'm not saying this because I'm government, yes. I was also in Bunge, and I can tell you.
Yeah.
If you want to achieve what it is you've done,
yes.
amazing, yes. and what it is your senators have supported, what it is the Committee of Health in Bunge, yes. led by Sabina, has done, would you want a bill that goes and then runs around the floor with nobody taking responsibility, put budget about it? So that in an aspect is right,
yeah.
but that doesn't also give the space to necessarily kill it.
Yeah, and
or slow it down.
And especially the process. Normally, yeah. even by the time the bill goes to first reading in National Assembly, they have checked
of course,
budget
of course, of course.
So for it to have gone several steps and then taken about 10, it was a bit questionable.
Yeah, it is. Let me tell you, you were going to get a few more disappointments in legislation, but you didn't give up.
No, I didn't give up.
Tell us. Yeah.
I got out of my depression
yeah.
and said to the speaker, what can we do? Then he spoke to his counterpart at the National Assembly,
yes.
and they came up with the idea of, can members' bills who've been deemed, money bills from Senate, can they partner with their counterparts at National Assembly, yes. and have the bills reintroduced at the National Assembly?
Yeah, so that you don't, so that you don't have that problem of the money bill.
Exactly, and also we don't lose time.
Yes, time in between, times of this.
5 years is so little.
Yes.
But somehow there was a court case. Senate went to court about constitutional interpretation of the money bill, and the court ruled that once the two speakers have concurred that an issue is for the counties and it's not a money bill, then that bill should just do the whole process. There's no need for it to be checked again, National Assembly.
So that you complete it at the Senate?
Complete it at the Senate, and then
let's fast forward.
Yes.
That National Assembly has passed it.
Yes.
Because you can be sure I'm on it.
Yes.
I told you my best thing is pushing.
Yes.
You can be sure I'm on it.
Yes.
And my colleague in health is also just as much of a passionate person as I am.
Yes.
We can do this.
Yes.
But now tell me how you've now interacted with government.
Yes.
With knowing very well that you will be soon bringing legislation.
Yes.
And hopefully that will be the law.
Yes.
And why I'm asking this question is because you are aware that the president did form a mental health task force. And that mental health task force was for us with mental health issues, for the practitioners, like at last.
Yes.
At last. Yes. And they had some of the best psychiatrists on it, and I guess all other stakeholders. And there's a report.
Yes.
So how does your legislation and your work on your legislation and the work the ministry is doing now, especially on the task force and the report, How do they intersect and interact?
Well, at least I'll be happy to report that finally there was convergence.
And conversation began.
There was convergence.
Yes.
And conversation began. The pressure was real.
Yes.
I think even by the time Senate was done with the bill,
yes,
the pressure was so real on government. In fact, that's when they had the first mental health conference, if you remember.
Yes,
the big conference.
Yes, there was a big conference. Yes.
Okay. Then it was shortly after that the president now spoke about
it. Exactly.
Yes.
And
the
suicide.
findings of that.
Yes.
The president finally spoke
about it at a national day. I remember.
And it was after that that the mental health task force was formed. And in fact, I brought you even a copy of the report. It's a beautiful.
I've been looking for it. Thank you.
I said, let me bring.
I've been looking for it. Thank you. I knew Kasmangani would give me.
Yes.
But at least I have it in advance before I speak to her.
Yes.
Thank you. That is the mental health and well-being task force, and this is the task force that was formed by the president. We've spoken about it before on this show. Thank you, Senator Kasanga. I will be bringing those who need to answer on the task force because you are not in it, so that we delve into it. Yes. But now I just want to know what is your interaction.
So my interaction,
yes,
you will find even in some of their legislative proposals here,
yes,
actually calling for fast tracking
of legislation.
Mental health Amendment Bill, Senate Bill 2018. They're actually calling for it here with some amendments.
Is that yours?
Yes, that's
is it one of Lekuton?
This is the bill we are discussing right now, the effort of the Senate. Yes.
Is that you being? Is it you?
Yes.
I don't want to be like your committee. I don't want to listen the work of your committee. But that's what has been quoted.
Yes.
Isn't that
calling for fast tracking? And even beyond that, they have actually met with me. This is now beautiful.
Wow.
We have sat down with Dr. Njuguna, representative from the Directorate of Mental Health.
Yes.
We have sat with Dr. Dr. Njenga, who was the chairman.
Yes, of the task force, yes.
And now Dr. Njenga has been gazetted as a presidential advisor on mental health.
Oh, good.
So we met because Dr. Njenga wanted to be sure that the ministry and the parliament bill are aligned.
Of course, that's what's important, so that moves faster.
Everything moves together.
Yes.
So whatever issues that the ministry had, they put them on board, which we have now presented them now to the Committee of Health at the Senate, so that they can harmonize this.
Okay.
So then we can all move together. So the convergence is a very beautiful thing for Kenyans.
So in that convergence, Senator, because you remember we said legislation is very detailed.
Yes.
That's why sometimes it can be tiring. But that is why you have members of parliament.
Yes.
Just to remind you that members of parliament, their core business is legislation, oversight and representation. Yes. So it's not an easy task. Yes. But once you get the legislation where you've reached, you've given stakeholders are happy, the mental health task force has recognized it. Yes. And you are now working in concert with the ministry. Yes. What do you hope to see?
Oh my God.
What do you hope to see?
Let me tell you something. When you go through this report, this report captures the length and the breadth of what Kenyans.
Give us some highlights. What do you think stands out? That we can say, wow, especially us with mental health issues. For example, what can you say wow about? Let's look at it together. Well, of course, somebody will come and discuss it more because we are discussing it. But what do you think will already the formation of which for us was like, okay, it's about time. Yes. The president speaking about it was like, that is the political goodwill that is needed for everything. So I can see they did public participation as well. It was very thorough. I mean, Dr. Jenga is one of the most renowned psychiatrists.
If you go to page 8, they have a summary of the key recommendations. That can guide you.
That would it. Set up a mental wellness and happiness commission. Happiness for real. I mean, they use the word happiness.
Yes. And they still use it to this day.
Happiness is so important to us.
Yes.
To monitor the state of mental health and happiness among Kenyans. Yes. You do know that COVID has brought more crisis and more pressure.
Yes, absolutely.
Declare mental illness a national emergency.
Yes. And in fact, this
of epidemic proportions.
Yes, and you see, this comes from their report. Yeah?
Yes.
And I have a little issue.
Yes.
This is a conversation we had in one of the forums, public forums today. Why hasn't the government yet declared it an emergency? That is something I need you from where you sit.
You know, I know the conversation about emergencies. Yes. And the conversation about emergencies must emanate from Bunge.
Yes.
Again.
Oh, really?
Emergency to the point of
Yes.
the president cannot declare a war
Really?
until he goes. Anything called a state of emergency is legislated.
Yeah.
Okay, not legislated in a long process.
Yes.
But government comes and says this thing is an emergency.
Yeah.
Because emergencies, when you say national emergency and you declare it, you have to put money in it immediately. So I understand what they're saying. Because when you do it, then you're able to get money that is not necessarily in the budget lines and etc. Because an emergency is an emergency. Yes. And let me tell you why it's an emergency. Through this period of COVID, you have seen, you don't have to be told.
Yes.
If you have seen the rate of suicide increase, gender-based violence is all about mental health. Yes. You've seen the police officers. You've seen public servants.
Yes.
You've seen women, you've seen men. I mean, mental health this time, you know, there was a time mental health was about women. Yeah. Because we are moody. Yeah. But have you seen the rate of mental health amongst men? It's men. And the young men. Children, our babies. Yes, our babies are suffering as well. That makes a lot of sense for me, the national emergency that they're asking for.
Yeah. So there are various, as you can see, there are various key recommendations. If you look at recommendation 11, it talks about support the Senate initiative amendment bill.
This is your legacy. Oh, Kalonzo Musyoka, thank you, and I'm sure you're very proud because really you have done something in the time you've been there that is recognized by government, and that's really what legislation is about. So well done.
So yes,
so well done.
A milestone for Kenyans, and remember this work was done by the stakeholders. The work was putting people together and giving them a platform.
Yes.
And that was really my task and my duty, I believe, given for the seat that I got from the White House.
No, you've done very well. You've done very well, and in a quick time. Yes. And lucky enough, you've gotten such goodwill. Yes. I said I'm going to do a few of these comments. Yes. But let's start looking at what probably this is what people would be saying. Okay, people of course are saying great work, good women leadership. Oh, there's an artist who is saying they can support me, Yvonne Otieno. Thank you. A spoken word artist. Art is a form of getting to young people. Yes. When you use art to talk about mental health, and we had a lady called Yvonne last time, it reaches, you know how young people, these days sitting down and lecturing, doesn't work. But art would communicate much faster.
I've done some advocacy work with some youth groups.
Yes.
And what they do on stage is most amazing. It's the best way to communicate. Through music, through poetry.
Exactly. This is a lady, she's called Yvonne Otieno. She does spoken word. I will definitely be looking for you, Yvonne. Irongo Hitton. Irongo is big on, he's always been in the civil society movement. I think you might know about it. Oh, okay. So he's like both leadership on national issues that is very misunderstood and that is sourced and needs attention now. Thank you, Senator Kasanga and Shebesh. People like this who already are like, they understand the issue. Civil society. How have you interacted with civil society? Have they been supportive of you? Have you been able to engage with them? Because there are many CBOs I've seen and NGOs working on mental health. They had no voice. They had no voice.
You see this publication?
Yes.
In fact, they're all listed here.
Oh.
I
speak about them.
Respect the work that they did.
Yes.
Because it is their advocacy.
Speak about them because they are there. They've been silent alone.
Yes, they've been working.
But working all the same.
I have pages. I can't even mention.
Oh, really?
Right now, yeah. Right here from page 45 through to page 53. This was the little appreciation I could do at that point in time.
No. First of all, there were many. Let's start from, I guess all of them were so happy to find somebody speaking on legislation. And when they were you have 360 Mental, this is KAIH. Of course, Chiromolen Medical Center. Chiromolen is the Kenya Health Students Summit.
Yes.
To friend a Kenya Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization, of course. What is USP Kenya? What does it mean? Users and Survivors of what?
Psychiatry. Yes.
There is such an organization, Users and Survivors of Psychiatry in Kenya.
Very strong one. In fact,
Bonga
submissions went into the bill. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Bonga is a mental health initiative that seeks to dispel the myth. Etubonge.
Yes, and that one is anonymous online platform where
Yes.
you can write your issue,
Yes.
and they have doctors in the back end who can respond to you, and it's purely anonymous.
No, let's go back to Bonga.
Yes, Bonga is very powerful as well. Yes,
As in me.
an online platform,
That me,
anonymous. You can just
I
log
can
in.
say I have this mental health issue.
Fungua roho yako yote pale. It's anonymous. Nobody knows who you are.
Yes.
And in the back end, they have psychologists who then respond and guide you.
Okay, Bonga is what I talked about when I said for the support system. When you don't want to expose who it is you want to help, because we still have stigma.
Yes, of course.
I think we will get over that stigma.
Yeah.
But I guess what we could do immediately then with such an organization is go get help there.
Yes.
Go to Bonga and ask these questions without you having to ask somebody who is not asking, why are you asking that question? Do you have a kwani uko na mtu?
Or you fear judged or something like that.
Exactly.
Then this
And the kind of words I use is mauruki,
Yes.
kuna mtu amechizi, nini, and that's where the stigma comes. Maybe we'll just ask you, asking that question, I'm sure you want to help somebody. First thing they'll say is, why do you want to know where a psychiatrist is?
Exactly.
So hey,
So Bonga can even help you connect. She's a good friend of mine.
and what is is this contact is info@bonga?
There, yes.
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 At OR@KE.
Yes.
Contact is info@bonga @OR@KE. Is it at? You know, maybe these things I don't know. Somehow we'll do the contacts properly. Speak Mind Love Foundation. Speak Mind and Love. There's nothing important like love around a mental health issue, because we can feel it.
Yes.
We can feel the love. And that's why when we go into depression, we carry another guilt of the people who we love, knowing they're also really going through a lot of things. But love is important. Oh, okay, there are many. I really can't finish them. Zalendo, Calmind, wow, basic needs.
Yeah.
Supports people, survivors, and persons that are at increased risk of mental
There's one
disorder.
called Calm Mind that supports women with postpartum depression.
Oh,
Yes.
listen to that story.
Postpartum. We had to put it in the bill
By the way,
to make sure postpartum depression is covered in the bill.
let me just talk to my back room. I saw and wrote, even if I'm saying it live, remind me postpartum.
Yes.
I have been remembering postpartum depression,
Yes.
then I kind of forget it. I need to start writing a bit more seriously. I will make sure we have a show on postpartum depression.
You
Because I have watched girls confused, women confused about how is it. And then later on, they don't get out of it. You know why? The guilt when now they're looking at this beautiful child who for the first 2-3 months they could not even breastfeed. They could not even change. That is something that is also so stigmatized.
Yes.
That the moment you have a person like that, a woman going through postpartum, by the way, a lot of marriages break at around that point. A lot of misunderstanding about families will start at that point. And because of that increased pressure, and you're having a condition you're not understanding, because you know that when you get a child, you should be, hey, everybody celebrates. I'm going to get a serious discussion around postpartum depression because it's real.
Yeah.
So it's called what?
Calm Mind.
Calm Mind.
Calm Mind.
Yes,
And
yes.
there's another organization.
Yeah.
Edward, if you could remind me the name, that looks into retired men and women from the force. True North.
From the security forces.
Yes, from the security forces.
Yeah, because people went to war.
Yes.
You know, that's another thing that I don't
You want
understand.
to hear that story?
You want to hear it because I don't know why I know this so well.
Yeah.
But can you imagine? And we have a mental health unit in our ministry. Let me just tell you that also, and probably can add value to you. Why did we form it? Because it was too much mental health in public service.
Yes.
And public service is the police force, with the civil servants, the normal data entry clerk.
Yes.
People were no longer motivated. People were so tired of working government, especially the aging population who is wondering, okay, I'm about to retire.
Yes.
What have I really achieved? My work is no longer motivational, etc., etc. Then it will always play out into what we are seeing, especially in the security forces.
Yes, security.
That is becoming scary.
It is.
So that organization does what?
They deal with empowering, those people who are retired.
So that they can deal with all the trauma that they saw as they were doing their work. Because please, let's remember our security services. I just want to say, they carry the brunt of the ugliness of society. They carry the brunt. and I take it from every security level to the highest. They carry the brand. Today we would not know how this country is being protected, how our borders are being protected. But those who are in the force know what they are needed to do to protect this country. It would take everybody's mind. It's not rocket science. Anybody would be traumatized by what I believe our security forces see. I mean, every time we are even death accidents, I mean, we are just waiting for the police. Yeah. You yourself cannot, you know, and that's the person who now go to where we actually go to areas of conflict. Yeah. I mean, you can imagine. Yeah, so I do understand. Yeah. I do understand. And therefore, because our time is running out, I do not know how quickly that went. So much I feel like we didn't even. How did that happen? I think we're talking too much. I think conversations on mental health. Yeah. Exhaust them. You can't exhaust them in one sitting. And also because the length and the breadth of it is so wide. Yeah. It canvases practically every aspect of our lives. So there's always something to talk about. And there's always an experience from a different angle and from a different angle. Let me tell you. Yes. We thank you, the people with mental health, first of all, on their behalf. We thank you. Because until this legislation, we would only be surviving. We would not be taken care of. So thank you, first of all. Your work is also oversight. Yes. Okay? Feel no guilt for oversight in government. That is your work. Yeah. But what I'm so happy to hear is that in your oversight work, you are able to bring a synergy with government, with this mental health task force, and to be able to implement the presidential directive on this task force, and his plea to Kenyans. And he's really pleading with Kenyans to look into their mental health. Yes, he's really pleading. Can I read one comment? Can I look for Senator Sakaja? Yes, yes. I call him my baby. Where are you sitting? Tuna was the first. He seconded the bill. Where? Mutula. Okay, let me start with that. I also like him. Yes. He says, I would like to propose that the bill looks into the mental health wellness and mental health care professional and workers. Of course, he always is right. You see, you can forget about the workers. Imagine. Thank you. Right now during COVID time. Yeah. One of the biggest topics we were discussing. I don't know whether we say thank you enough to our health workers as well. Yeah. Thank you. Let me now quickly look for Sakaja. The stigma associated with mental health condition prevents us from accessing those who require support. Thank you, Senate. Thank you, Senator Kasanga. Your last word. And now you can look into the camera. My last words to Kenyans, even as we wait for all these interventions to come into place, there's that place where we have to play as human beings towards each other. Look at each other, look at somebody else and see a little of yourself in them, and they will see a little of you in them. And to let's be gentle. Let us be a bit gentle. And let us also reach out. Don't wait for somebody. When you see somebody is suffering, a little bit low, reach out. Just reach out your hand. And before I go, Honorable Shebesh, we, the SDG caucus parliamentarians, have a campaign. We are calling it Fungua Roho. We are telling Kenyans, it's time to open up your heart. Yes. It is okay not to be okay. And we have this campaign that has been going. We are amplifying the voices. Is that the campaign that you want me to sign on? You must sign on this one. So thank you, Parliamentary Caucus on SDGs. Caucuses are people who are passionate about an issue, members of parliament and senators who are passionate about an issue, who bring that issue to fore and bring passion, focus, and motivation to it. Yes, so we are saying I will be happy to sign it. Are now speaking up. Let us open our hearts. Let us fight the stigma. Let us begin to get a healing as a nation by opening up. Amplifying the voices. Fungua Roho. Fungua Roho. Fungua Roho. Thank you for joining us today yet again. Thank you, Senator Kasanga. Believe me, you've already made your mark. Thank you. You've already made your mark. You didn't need 10 years in Parliament. Thank you. You didn't need 10. You've done something amazing. People, next week, Thursday, 3 p.m. Thank you, 37 on Kigambala, once again for giving us this space. I look forward to seeing you in our next show on Thursday, 3 p.m. same time. I'll be bringing you a guest in my promos. I'll tell you who. I'm sure you'll want to watch. God bless you. We can beat this. Nice. Amplifying voices for Fungua Roho Mental Health.
Yeah. So we were lucky to get some sponsorship.
Yes, yeah.
Those are some of our people we've been working with at the
Yes.
Open Society Initiative of East Africa, and they wanted us, in fact,